For a long time we've spoken about streamers being at different levels. There are cheaters out there who do get exposed quite easily. They're the ones who are following people through walls. They're the ones who don't know how to fine tune their aimbot settings, so they will be snapping and locking onto people all over the place, right? We've spoken on the different levels of cheaters. Now if somebody is actually naturally a really good gamer and then they use cheats on top of that, it becomes a lot more difficult for the untrained eye to see. So if you're just a gamer and you've never experienced cheats and you don't know what the cheats can actually do to the full extent, then you will struggle a hell of a lot more to spot a good player cheating than you would compared to somebody who's experienced the cheats themselves. This is the reason I put myself in the position where I was fully educated on how the cheats work in Call of Duty Warzone, so that I could spot it even at the highest level. And that is why I've sat here calling people out for the longest time. So with that being said, a lot of these streamers have defended each other along the way. He's not cheating, zero big streamers are cheating, we heard Joe say that. But in a more recent stream, Aydan actually spoke out on this matter of people cheating. It seems to be a hot topic at the moment because there are people grassing on each other. Streamers, wager players, all sort of turning on each other now. It's good to see. Recently we saw that wager player who was come out of the woodwork saying that he cheated himself, but one of his teammates bought the cheats for him so that the teammate didn't get caught cheating. He would, but he was still on the same team, and so on. So Aydan's gone into detail on this live stream about large streamers or good players cheating. So we're going to go and take a look at that now. So the topic of conversation here is all about people cheating and so on. So let's just take a listen to what Aydan has to say. And if I feel there's something I should input, I will.
Like Giannis, for example, like when he came in the league, or like there's just new people that come about, and I don't know. I feel like it's hard for like people to be open and accepting that there is insane talent. Yeah, like Tatum, just like newer players that are fucking insane, right? It is hard to come to the realization that like these people are these like nobodies essentially, right? These people you've never heard of. They've maybe been playing COD, you know, whatever, 2-3 years. They haven't been playing COD since it's been out, but they're fucking nasty. Like, it is hard to accept. It is, even for somebody like myself, right? Like, I'll give you an example.
So right now he's talking about like accepting that people are better. Now this is the narrative we've heard for a very long time, but let me say that's not what Aydan's actually doing here. But for a long time we've heard, you know, they're just better, get good kid, it's 8 hours a day, if you played the game for this long, you know, it's map awareness and so on. Now all of these things are factors in why some of these players are so good, and imagine that, and then they have cheats on top of it as well. But let's carry on listening to what he had to say here, because he gives a prime example of him thinking somebody else might have been a cheater, but he believes that they're not now.
Like Hisoka, for example. When Hisoka played the World Series of Warzone over at my house, the one for Caldera, he was telling us how he only started playing in COD, like he hasn't even played like all the CODs. Like me, I've started in COD 4. Soka said he fucking started in like Black Ops 3 or something. Like, it is actually hard for me to fathom that someone started playing like COD during like jetpacks or like just some new ass COD and they're just so fucking good. Like, it's hard to understand that.
So with that being said as well, we can think about people like Nadia. Nadia claimed that she'd been playing Call of Duty for as far back as she can remember, but she didn't know what a dolphin dive was, right? And there has been other aspects of her speaking on stream that prove that she doesn't really have any history in Call of Duty, at least none that's, you know, quite apparent or still lives with her to this day. We've got people like Natasha, who picked up Warzone as their first Call of Duty. We've got people like Joe, again, he hasn't played Call of Duty before Warzone, I believe. Might have even been Blackout, I'm not sure, but very, very much so. Claims to be one of the best in there. Claims to be one of the most popular streamers, and they don't have that history there. Now these are people who have all had very suspicious things happen. Joe has had aim snapping onto enemies in Warzone 1, same again in Warzone 2. Nadia has had pretty much everything you can think of that's sus happen. She's had a permabanned account, her aim locks onto people, she calls people out she can't see, she talks about Cronus and wall hacks and so on and so on and so on. And she got exposed at LAN event. That was the biggest thing at the COD Next LAN event. She was done. That was the moment she realised she was done, and that was the moment she started leaning more into the in real life content instead of sitting there on stream playing Call of Duty, because she's trying to let that get brushed under the rug. But this is the thing, people are cheating in a game that didn't have an anti-cheat. So even now they've got an anti-cheat that doesn't really work, right? It does work to an extent, but very, very minimal. And now you've got people claiming the anti-cheats still working 100%, but they're not getting caught because they don't cheat, right? Let's listen to what Aydan continues to say here.
Seriously. But some people are just talented, man. And obviously everyone has the right to be, you know, skeptical about hackers and shit, because it is a super common thing and it's really hard to prove, especially when someone's good. It's hard to prove. If someone's good, they're usually going to be pretty good at hiding it as well, right? They're going to be better. They're going to put themselves in situations that, like, they could kind of play off the hacks. Like, it is really hard to fucking, you know, expose people for hacking, especially good players. So,
and right there is where Aydan has just exposed every single one of these top streamers, right? Not to the extent that he's exposing them for cheating, but he's just exposed their narratives. Okay, their narratives have always been that they're these great cheaters. Great streamers, great players. But when you see the inconsistencies in the gameplay from somebody who's used cheats like myself, to understand them, you understand the inconsistencies, right? So they will say, oh, it's a sound cue, and then they will use other game features to try and hide things. So like in Warzone 1, they had combat scout, snapshot grenades, things like that. That was definitely there for them to be able to use to hide wall hacks, yeah? You just spray a tent and you get a hit marker, combat scout pops up, you've got like a silhouette of the enemy, which is basically wall hacks built into the game. So these sorts of things is what Aydan's saying a good player would be able to take advantage of, to hide the fact that they are cheating. So if he's saying this, but then we've got Joe on the other hand saying the 0 big streamers cheat, which is it? I actually am starting to think that Aydan might be coming to terms with the fact that a lot of these guys are going to get exposed. Maybe he just believes his are better than everyone else's. We've got so many moments of Aydan potentially using wall hacks that it's like, is he exposing himself here? But what he's saying is, you can't definitively say that somebody is or isn't cheating based off a good player, because good players can hide it well. And especially if you've been using the cheats for long enough, you learn how to cheat on a pro level. Just like you learn to get better at a game when you play it for longer. Using the cheats, you get better. And I think that's happening a lot with some of these large streamers. Like when, for example, Zenon used to lock on to center chest on every single one of his kills, and then it went from that to limb lock after he got exposed for the center chest lock. He started locking onto the left knee, and then it was left elbow. And then we realized that these features can actually alternate as well, depending on player position, like the enemy position and stuff like that. So when it comes down to it, we know these guys would cheat because there's a lot of money on the line, and their whole story to back up the fact that they're just pro players and they're not cheating has just been completely shat all over by Aydan on this clip here.
It's a mix of things. Like people want, I think people are just so paranoid about the hackers. It's hard to give new and upcomers with no names like credit, when it's just like hard to credit them. It's like, it is hard to credit a new player that is like maybe cracked as you just don't know. Like, you really don't know. That's why I think LAN like clears up a lot of that shit and helps prove stuff.
Again, right here, Aydan talks about LAN events. Let's talk about Zenon quickly. Zenon was a Fortnite player. He talks about his history of playing Halo with his dad. He doesn't really talk about the history of Call of Duty. Bear in mind, when he was on Fortnite, he was a keyboard and mouse player. He's moved over to Warzone and instantly went to using a controller. Now, one of the biggest things you can do to mask aimbot on Warzone is say, I'm on controller, bro. It's aim assist, right? We've seen it so many times. And that's what Zenon did from the get-go. right? And he's fine-tuned things now to the point where things have started to look more natural. But early on, you go and look some of his early Warzone 1 gameplay, you will see him locking onto people, you will see the aimbot snaps, you will see that. And then people are talking about the fact that Warzone 2 has a stronger aim assist than Warzone 1. If that's correct, then why did Zelena seem to have this completely unnatural aim assist in Warzone 1, but now it's not as strong? Let that sink in as well. And the fact that Aydan's talking about LAN events, right? We can bring up Nadia, we can bring up Natasha, we can bring up Jowo, Breadman, we can even bring up Zelena. These are all people who have underperformed massively at LAN events. We've seen it with Zelena in the Winter Wonderland that was hosted by the Backer Bros. He got carried hard by Destroy, who was his teammate. In that whole tournament, Zelena did not get many kills. I think in total he had like 5 kills, whereas Destroy got them into 3rd position with about 16, 17 kills. Okay, so don't quote me on them numbers, might be slightly off, but Zelena really underperformed and did not perform well at all. He performed less than what he would call a bot online, okay? So then you've got that. Then you've got the fact that he played in a part of the Optic team on a Rebirth tournament and performed really bad as well, right? So these all factor in. And then we've got Nadia completely shitting the bed on COD Next event with a 0.27 KD. And she was making up all the excuses under the sun, claiming she didn't get to play the game, claiming she didn't have a Cronus with her, this and that, right, and so on. She exposed herself at that moment. Jowo and Breadman at the Winter Wonderland events finished like second to last with barely any kills, really underperformed compared to how they do in the comfort of their own home. And again, this is something that Aydan is speaking about on stream. I believe Aydan's a cheater, by the way, but he's a cheater who's a great player at the same time. So he can go to LAN events and he will perform well. And I think that he knows that, and that's why he can speak on the matter like this. But there are so many people being exposed just by Aydan talking about these things now.
And like I said with Hisoka, I honestly didn't know 100% he wasn't cheating. Like I didn't think so. I thought he was naturally just very good. I didn't think he was cheating, but I didn't like know, like I couldn't fucking put it on my family's life or anything. But after he came over here, played World Series of Warzone and fucking won, like, I mean, that's really the most you could do to clear a name, right? That's the most you could do.
And he's talking about Hisoka, right? Hisoka's got some very sus moments as well. And again, he's a part of Omit. So that in itself is sus, because Omit tend to hire people or recruit people to their org who've got a history of cheating, which you've seen recently on a Tomzilla video where he speaks about Rafi hiring Paysetter, who was caught cheating in a Twitch Rivals tournament, and then goes on to hire Magnificent to the team, who was permabanned, and multiple others. Tonezilla's covered quite a lot of that. I've covered some of it in the past as well. So Hisoka is definitely in there with the sus mix. And if he's not sus, then he needs to find a new org, because he's in a sus org. But again, you can never be fully, like, sure. Even if they come to your house and play on your setup and drop a 30 bomb, right? If they're regularly getting 40 plus kill games and they only drop a 30 on your setup, that means they're a great player, but they've got something helping them at home, right? So Aydan, just in a short clip here, has exposed a lot, and I'm made up he's done it. He could well actually be starting the downfall of all these large streamers. Let that sink in. You can never 100% fully know if someone is legit. People ask me to cover legit streamers. I've tried it in the past, and all it takes is for them to change their mind at some point in the future and buy a Cronus or download cheats or get foot pedals for their aimbot, and then they'll be like, BadBoy Beaman defended this guy, right? But that's why I don't, and that's why we only expose the corruption in the gaming industry. And Aydan's just been a massive help today. I never thought to be saying this, but Aydan has made some great points there in that clip, and I think that maybe we can use this to reference back to in the future, just like we will do when Jowo said there's 0 big streamers are cheating. We've now got Aydan saying that it's pretty much impossible to spot a cheater if they are naturally a good player as well. But I've got the experience from both sides of being a decent player at the game as well as having the cheat experience there. So knowing the difference between the two is key, and I've got that key. So if you did enjoy this video, guys, and you want to see more, smash that thumbs up for me, turn on the notification bell, and subscribe if you're new. Thank you. And guys, one last thing before we go. Do you ever feel like life is just too overwhelming? That your anxiety is holding you back from being your best self? Introducing Supreme CBD, the all-natural CBD solution to help you find your balance. With Supreme CBD, you can experience the benefits of CBD without the psychoactive effects of THC. Supreme CBD's formula is designed to help you reduce stress and anxiety, improve focus, and promote overall wellness. And the best part, Supreme CBD is made with only the highest quality organic ingredients, so you can feel confident in what you're putting into your body. It's time to take control of your life and find your balance with Supreme CBD. You can order now and experience the difference for yourself. And don't forget to use code BBB40 at checkout for 40% off.